Are you ready to get woke? Welcome to the Woke as podcast with your host, Alex Lazarev.
Hello, everybody.
Yes, hello.
It's another Woke as Fuck podcast. It's great. We're in
Vilcabamba.
we're in little Ecuador village where I live half the year. And this guy, you live there even more than half a year, don't you?
I live here for 7 years by now.
But you leave sometimes.
Yes, even though it's difficult to travel, being in the middle of nowhere in the Andes, so it's always a big job. So,
But internally, you can travel anytime you want.
yeah, I do that all the time.
Exactly right. That's what's important. So I'll do an intro of what I know about you so far.
Okay.
And then we're going to get to know you deeper.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good format. So here's what I know so far.
I'm curious.
He's a crazy German. You can tell by look at those pants, for God. Look at those pants. How could you think he's sane?
Well, as a German, I'm not sane, that's for sure. As a human being, I would say I am very sane.
We'll all decide that at the end.
Okay.
At the end. So here's what I know. Been a spiritual seeker for a very long time. He's very good at listening to crystals. He knows everything. He's a guru. I don't use the word guru a lot, but he's a crystal guru. Even amongst gurus, they come to him to ask him questions about crystals. And here's what's crazy. He can listen to the crystals and get readings, and the crystal basically kind of talks through him to tell you about your stuff. And he's done it to me, and it was very good. It was very accurate. Like, he was telling me things where I'm like, nobody could possibly know that.
Well,
yeah.
I don't know that myself either, really. And like you said, yes, I'm using the crystals as a tool to connect with the higher self of people and step out of the way and start talking, which surprises me sometimes what comes out of my mouth.
Hey, with an ego like yours, it's amazing you could ever step aside. Way! Come on, it takes one to know one.
Right. And I've heard that Osho once time mentioned that in order to drop my ego, I have to have a humongous ego. And then I see the futility of it, and then I can drop it. You know, if I have reached the limits, then, okay, so I'm working on it, and we're both getting there, right?
Yeah, I had to build mine up really big before I could start dropping. So now I'm in the middle of dropping. It's good. It's good. Maybe past the middle point. But what's interesting about you, and I'll just. So that's basically what I know. He's also good at making dry fruit, delicious dried bananas, dried mangoes, delicious. I just had some now, and I'm sure he's got other things. But also, I bet you he has a lot of crazy stories about his spiritual journey, because it's been a long time. So that's what I wanted to begin at, sort of like. What little bit about, like, what did you have, a normal or a boring, or like what was the kind of life like before, and then what if there was a turning point and like, okay, something's going on more here than I'm just a person and I have a job and I'm doing that. What happened where you were like, okay, we need to go for this. Like what happened?
Okay.
And so take it away.
Okay, I take it away. That's dangerous. I won't give it back. Anyway, how did it work out? Well, okay, I lived or grew up in a very normal German middle-class household. Very beautiful, no challenges, everything beautiful, and extremely boring. And it was like, when I was really young already, I saw all the Germans around me, nothing wrong with Germans per se, but like people around me, growing up, going to school, learning a job, having a family, raising kids, the normal thing. And it seemed like this can't be it. But I had no clue really what could be different, right? I just knew that's not really that sounds not right. And then acid happened. And I suddenly realized, I'm not imagining things. There is more to life than meets the eye. And that was basically just the beginning. I still tried really, really hard to be a good German. I really tried hard.
Just that sentence is funny. I tried being a good German. Just a little tip, though. Mic technique, just so it sounds super good, at the chin. Because I know I'm a comedian, so I'm used to having the mic up here. But yeah, I have people on the show. They're like this. Hey, here. It's like, so if we have it right here, it's going to sound beautiful for the all the amazing souls who are listening. And I got this. I paid extra. This was literally like $27 just to get this soft thing because it cuts the wind out, but also it feels nice. You can almost rest it on your chin. That's nice.
All right.
Doesn't have to give it to you.
All right. Where was I? Where was I? I was young and I took acid and tried to be normal. That didn't quite work out. But I still, even after my experience that life has more to offer, or even existence has more to offer than what I can see, it took me a while. I still tried really hard. And then one day I was somewhat like 21 or something. I gave up. It's like, this is not my life. And then I remembered when I was a kid, I saw a picture of the Himalayas. And I knew as a kid I want to go. And I remembered in that moment. And I go, okay, that's where I'm going. I packed my bag and hitchhiked overland from Germany to India. And that was the beginning of the end. And then I tried a few ashrams and spiritual traditions and what, and it was all not quite right. And then I met Osho. And that was right. What can I say? Yeah, that was really the real beginning of my journey. And that's about in the mid-80s, so that's like 35 years ago. And yeah, then I started working on myself.
So here's a question. So even before we get to the, and I'm sure there's going to be some interesting Osho adventure stuff. But what was this feeling or knowing that, something's missing? What I mean, is it just that everyone was like bored and it's just so German, everyone's just doing their thing, or did you like, do you know what I mean? Like, what was the thing that where you're like, this is not, I have to like what drove you? Because most people, especially back then, people don't just go to the Himalayas. That's like a big move. You know what I mean? So you must have had something really push. Was it like a desire to know God, or was it just to seek something high? Like, what was driving you at that point?
Actually, I'm pretty dense. And even though I'm highly psychic, if it comes to certain areas, I just go with the flow. And I did not really have a desire to become enlightened or to find out or be spiritual or what. I just knew that this is not it. So I just started on trying to figure out, what is it? Yeah. So there wasn't really like, yeah. And this being, like remembering this picture of the Himalayas, it was basically also, later on, I did a group called a primal group. And in this group, I had a vision coming to this planet. And I was aiming for the Himalayas. I just saw them. And yeah, and I bounced off and I woke up in Germany. And then later, Osho did a discourse about our karma and being born in so-called Western civilization or civilized countries, because we have the ability to be meditative because we are not trying to get our food and trying to survive. We have a certain lifestyle, right? We have the basic chakras are fulfilled, so to speak, our survival. So we have time for meditate and actually go on a spiritual journey. And also we have things and still feel empty, right? So it was, I don't know about lucky or karma, that I didn't manage to come back into India and be an Indian sadhu, which I probably was in my last lives, or a few of them, out of experiences of visions and past life regressions I had. And so maybe the remembrance, the unconscious remembrance, or the remembrance was there in the background, that there's more to life than what meets the eye as a German, made me definitely realize, okay, this is not it, I'm gonna look for it. Does it answer?
Yeah. And for me, it's really one of the interesting questions, because you know, it's easy to find interviews of enlightened masters or whatever talking about, yes, we're all blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but how did you get there? What happened? What did you do when you were a person and you were fucked up and lost and confused like everyone else? What did you do then to begin, you know what I mean? That's the interesting part. I was there and I was married to the horrible person and she was drunk and then I was getting into fights and the guy next door was a crackhead and he kept stealing my television. I want to hear about that from the enlightened master, not just, oh yes, well, I've been 20 years on a mountain meditating. Good for you. But what happened before that? What happened before?
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Okay, so basically being German, that's what that's what pushed you.
Right, basically being German and seeing that is unfulfilling. This is not it. This cannot be it. I mean, this amazing existence, this amazing life, this amazing everything, and then you just raise children and do a job, and then you're a pensioner and you can't even enjoy that because you're too old? Nah.
No, and anywhere in the world, you can sort of feel if you're not completely, that's not it. But in Germany, it's really accentuated. I've been there. I was, I know I've taught a lot of German guys on my courses. I was married to a German, so I've really had some experiences. And wow, if you really want to sum up human suffering and unconsciousness and just following orders and just completely putting the blinders on and pretending everything is okay when you're literally just living life as a robot, Germany pretty much has it down. Germany, Austria, Switzerland, boom. They got it nailed down. They are so good at it. I mean, congratulations on those countries because you guys have got being a fucking robotic automaton down. And I say it from a place of love. God bless all of you. But wow.
Well, there is a benefit to it. We are really good technicians, or not we, I'm not. Germans are really good technicians and all this good of stuff. But I remember, like you say, about orders, and like that's the way it is, right? In Germany, it is the way it is. So when I was a kid, I remember I asked my mother, like, why? Because that's how we do it. And that was never really fulfilling. That was like, what? So yeah. And what also drove me was that I never really understood people, how they function. Somewhat there's something different in my brain. Call it karma, call it big ego, I don't know. But it was like really, I remember when I was younger, like puberty, and you get testosterone running, and like, and all of that good stuff. And I remember my boyfriends, my friends, they had sex. And after they had sex, they suddenly had the right to tell the woman what to do. How do you figure that? I never understood that. And so there was also like from the very beginning already a little bit of a difference in my makeup. Yeah, what can I say? I'm weird.
I think they could have figured that out just for the moment the camera turned on. Click. This guy's weird. Thank God. So you basically... You went to India and you discovered Osho. Yes. So how did you find him? And again, what was that first moment? What was it? Was it the first speech or the first thing he said or the first moment where you went, okay, this could be the guy for me? And where did it go from there?
That's really, really funny. Okay, I was in India and I was a little bit of a spiritual seeker, but basically I was just drinking up India. And then I met sannyasins, and you could really see them because they all had orange and had the mala of Osho, right? And for some reason, I felt really attracted to these people. They were different. So I went to the ashram, and I had a really big ego then already. So I go like, oh, I'm going to see him, and then I'm going to see if he's really the dude, right? Yeah, right. So I went to the office. I go like, I would like darshan, would like to take sannyas, do my judgment. They refused. You do first, this group and this, first you work on yourself. And so I tried for a little while and it didn't really work. So I went back to be a hippie and smoke chillums and travel around India and do all this good stuff, but always connected with sannyasins. And then after like 2-3 years of still diddling around, I was in Europe, and I suddenly realized that there was another step in my life, another thing finished. I was traveling for like 10, 12 years. It was amazing. Every day was different, amazing experiences, like unbelievable. And I realized that I can do that for the rest of my life, and it's always different, but actually it's always the same. And then I remembered sannyasins. And then I remembered Osho, because I also read and saw some discourses, went to discourses and stuff. And then I realized, okay, outside I did it all, ain't happening. The only other direction would be inside. And that was it. And then I went to the office, and they looked at me and they go, okay. And I took sannyas.
What does that mean?
That means that basically now I realize that what I know of myself ain't happening, is not real. It's just an imagination. It's just a construct from my parents, from whatever. And I want to find out who I am. And that's part of it. Like classical in India, a sannyas is somebody who wants to find out who he is. So they renounce the world and start a new life, going inwards. And classically, you get a new name, signifying I'm done with burned. That was my name before. Now I'm Vinaya, which is somebody who doesn't quite know who he is, but he's on the way of trying to figure this out. So taking sannyas, becoming a disciple is somewhat of a helpful tool to really make a declaration, a statement that, okay, burned is done. I have no clue who I am, but I'm on my way to try to find that out. So, yeah, it is quite important because I intend to the universe, I'm ready, I'm done with the old story, here's the new life.
Okay. I hope. Well, we'll find out in the comments. If people are like, that was a crappy answer, or this was the greatest podcast in the world, or everything in between. We'll find out. We'll find out. No, but that's interesting because I've heard people say that. I knew it was a seeker, so it was a seeker.
Yeah.
But the actual exact, definition is good to hear. Yeah, that's really what it comes down to is, and in a way it's shocking. Most people, not only are they not seeking who they are, it hasn't even occurred to them that they don't know who they are.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I know exactly.
Like there's not the journey hasn't begun. There isn't even a question that would begin the journey. Right. And that's kind of, once you are on it and have had some moments of clarity, it's pretty shocking because all of the joy actually in being comes from when you realize you're not a person. That's actually where life begins. When you realize I'm not a person, this is all just made up constructs. And actually I am consciousness, presence, bliss. That's actually the nature, and everything else is BS. I mean, literally, life began for me when I popped.
Yes, there's two ways. And life began for me when I had a taste of Osho. It's called the transmission of the lamp, where you suddenly see somebody who, don't ask me what, but you know that like, whoa, I'm not imagining things, there's more, even more than I thought there is more. And so a master is or an enlightened being is very helpful. Mm-hmm. And also this emptiness in oneself. And if we are all somewhat a little bit honest to, not me or him, that's dangerous, but honest to myself, then I would know, yeah, actually, it's great to have a girlfriend, have some happiness, nice vacation, good food, all of these things, but they're all very, very, very temporary. And even the best orgasm I had is temporary and is actually, I don't even know a percentage of like the real orgasm is when you actually remember. And having that taste, for me it was, for you I guess it happened just because you're crazy. that helps. I heard Osho say, not being normal, being different. For me, it was Osho, really tasting that. And then at one point also I had a samadhi, remembrance, bliss attack, so to speak, as so did you. How about you telling me about that?
Well, it's funny. As we're recording this, I haven't actually done a podcast where I really told that experience. Oh. And it's funny because I was like, I told you a little bit.
Yes.
A little bit. So if I'm going to tell it, it's really, it's going to take at least 10 minutes to really go into it because it's really profound. So if this is the one, I can tell the story, and then you'd be someone great to discuss it with, actually, because you studied with Osho how many years, and you've had, I'm sure, many experiences like this, so we could have a discussion about it. But at the same time, so we could do that and then get back to your story also.
It's up to you.
Shall we do it?
Sure.
Fuck it, let's do it. All right. So, yeah, it's such a deep one. Like, I'm not going to talk about it other places. Like, it's just so fucking crazy. Only on a spiritual podcast could we discuss this. So I had other moments. It wasn't the first one. The first one I had was 2009, and I've told the story before, but the short version is I just read a very spiritual book that was very interesting, and by this Japanese master, talking about the different levels of, where when you die, there's different levels you can go to, and Jesus on this one and this, and it was all like really cool. Anyways, I was in Canada, and I'm going into the subway, and there was this totally crazy lady screaming, and everyone was like avoiding her, like really crazy. It reminded me of my mother, just totally nuts. And I just passed her, went downstairs, and some little voice in my head was like, go talk to her. And I was like, what the fuck? Anyway, I go talk to this lady. I just gave her some grounding and I was just present with her, very present. And I actually pulled her out of some crazy zone and into the present and just gave her some grounding. And the story's, I've told it on my YouTube channel. And I give her a hug and whatever, and I make her feel better. And she says, thank you. And she goes and gets on her little bus thing, and she goes. So it was maybe a 10-minute conversation with a person who was basically losing their shit, and I just helped them. And I was getting in the subway, and and I had this crazy experience of just this moment of realization of like, oh, that's nice what I did. Oh, I guess I helped another soul on her journey. And then it just suddenly hit me like, oh, that's the point of everything. And and it just hit me, this understanding of like, there's no such thing as death. We all reincarnate. We're all here to help each other. And as that came in, it was this fire that hit my forehead, ran down my head, down my back, down my arms. And for about half a minute or so, I went on the subway and I realized all this. I'm like, oh, we don't die. We just reincarnate. This is not it. And then there was this, everyone's face had these bright lights, like two bright lights. Like they were so bright where I couldn't look at people. So I was looking at the ground for like half a minute. Then that faded. And then I looked at people and I could feel everything everyone was feeling. And everyone was feeling the same thing, totally lost, no idea what they were doing here. And I knew in that moment I have to tell everyone the truth. There's no death. We reincarnate. We're all here to help each other. That was the first time. That was 2009. And at the time, it was intense. But that was just a warm-up. That's mango. It's his fault to have mango between my teeth. He's been feeding me mangoes.
We have mango season now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great time to be here. So since then, so that was the first one. And then I just, and I was still unconscious asshole. Yeah, I was still clueless, just doing jokes, chasing girls. And it was almost like but there were some, when I was reading that book, there was really like, wow, this is really interesting. But there was no deep, I want to wake up or anything like that at that time. It was just like, okay, that's cool. Wow, that was an interesting experience. Okay. And I just kind of kept going. And it wasn't that much going on. And then in the last few years, there's been ayahuasca, there's been San Pedro, a lot of heart openings, and there was a story once on San Pedro where it was really a oneness with everything. I remember looking at the mountain and going, oh, I'm the mountain, and this guy, oh shit, I'm everything. And it was just like a real, oh, okay, I'm at one with everything. And at one point I felt real gratitude. I dropped to one knee and I was like, thank you, God, for life. It was very, very, very blissful. And then really profound stuff, which I have spoken about before 2 years ago on a friend's land here. He's got some really nice land. And it was just sitting there, totally blissed out. and just talking to the universe, and like it was just, I knew it was just me, and it was a very two-way conversation, and I would ask for certain things and they would happen, and there's some little minor miracles and stuff like that. But it was just a very peaceful and loving, just like, oh, I'm everything. And I wanted to just sit there forever. Like I literally was like, I was so happy. I didn't have to go anywhere or do anything. I could just sit there and be with God. And
difficult to do anything.
I mean, it was just really like, wow, this is amazing. Yeah. But and then I left that, and then I went back into the world, and I dropped down back to normal. And I'm like, oh, life sucks. I have to go back to Ecuador, and I have to buy this land so I can be with God again. This whole story, which was of course ridiculous. But I had some really amazing moments there. And so, and I've been obsessed with, like, in the last 3 years, just totally obsessed with enlightenment. I have a fucking podcast where I just interview people about spiritual enlightenment, right? And there's the clue that I'm obsessed. And so, and throughout the years, whenever there's like a master, I always go, like hugging Mama. I hugged her, Mother Mira. I went and got darshan with her. Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, I've gone to his course and sat there and everyone's meditating, and I just kept staring at him. So he'd look at me, and he looked at me for about half a minute. We made eye contact, and I was like, yes. Mooji, I've been twice. Mooji hugged me. I cried like a baby. So it's, and reading all these books, so many, Conversations with God and Autobiography of a Yogi, and all these books, a lot of stuff by Hawkins, David Hawkins, like unbelievable stuff, and other books. So last few years, just the Anastasia books. So just 100% just obsessive, just have to wake up. And then, and I did some meditations. I always sucked at meditation, just so bad. It was so I still suck. But when I was on the land, I did this one of my spiritual teachers shared, and I've talked about this before, but where you don't try and not think, you get into your heart, and you actually say to God, okay, I'm listening. So you put your consciousness, okay, I'm listening, I'm open, and you just try and feel. And with that, I always get information coming in very clear. Okay, you're this, blah, 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 like just right. Awesome. And it just bypasses the brain totally, because the brain is bullshit. So I had a lot of that stuff. And then, I was, so this is the thing that happened that I haven't talked about. I'll tell the full story. It's just really fucking crazy. And I'm still not normal, but let's see. I was never normal, but this was a crazy one. So I'm in New York City, and this guy, a friend of mine, a guy who I'd known for a long time, just over the internet. He's also a YouTuber, and we spoke a little on Skype, but we never really got a chance to meet up. I'm in New York, and he messaged me. He says, "Oh, dude, I see you're in New York. I'm in New York too. Do you want to meet up?" I said, "Sure, let's meet up." We meet up. And for a while, I'm talking to the guy, and there was no, how you're waiting sometimes for a click with someone, so that there's some spark of excitement or something. And if there isn't one, after a while, you're like, listen, I gotta go. You know what I mean? So we're hanging out like 15, 20 minutes, and I'm like still waiting. And then finally he says something profound, or a spiritual realization he'd had about relationship and something where he really gotten through something and really attained a certain level of wisdom, which I recognized. I was like, oh yeah, totally. I've had that realization. And we start talking, and boom, there was a click. So we start connecting. And he basically was like, dude, man, you really let go on your YouTube channel. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, you used to be doing these great videos and inspiring people and all this great stuff. And you're just kind of like letting other, you upload things, but other people are running it for you. You're not really, you got to take it. You could do really huge things. I see your potential. You're not really doing it. And I was kind of like, oh, okay, interesting. Yeah. And I let it sink in and think about it. And I'm hanging out with him. And it was just in this place in New York where I was like, slowly this inspiration started taking over, and I was like, fuck it, I'm in New York, let's go film some videos. And I go out on the streets, and me and him start filming things and whatever, and doing all this stuff. And I just started, sometimes you go in your groove, and life is a wave, sometimes you're really in it, sometimes you're out of it, sometimes you want to do things, sometimes you want to relax. That's just how it is. So I started really getting into my groove in a way I haven't been in a couple of years, like really like, holy shit, I want to go and share and create and do amazing things. So I started doing all this stuff. And I was just very excited about me and my purpose and what I'm doing here. Just a lot of excitement. So one night, I'm just sitting there like this on my laptop, just working, but very excited, like rewriting the copy for my website. Oh, this is more authentic. This doesn't represent me. This is what I want to say. Oh my God. Just being very me and happy and everything. And so I had this excitement. I just had this thought, and the thought was just, man, I feel so inspired right now. I hope I never lose this feeling of inspiration and clarity and purpose. I hope I never lose this. And immediately after that thought came the thought, I am this inspiration and this clarity and this joy. It's my nature, so I can't lose it. And the next thought was, this clarity, this inspiration, this joy is God. And immediately after was, I am God. And it wasn't just a thought, it was a knowing. It was a remembrance of this. Oh, wait, I am God. And in that moment, there are no words to describe what happened. It doesn't matter what I can talk about it, but it will never describe what actually happened after that.
And just as maybe a hint or an understanding, the word God is somewhat misleading, I would say. Because we usually associate God with a being or with a presence or what. What most enlightened beings have a challenge with, and I'm not claiming I'm enlightened, mind you, but I had a taste. And even that taste, to put that into words is slightly impossible. I mean, how would you put into words love when you love somebody? How you put that into words? And that's actually sort of possible. But that experience to be not sort of. Anything one says is wrong because it doesn't really describe it. And and for us to have that experienced, the only pleasure really left in life is to share that taste. At least that's for me, and I believe that's also true for you. Share that taste, and also once one is not really there, or is just even in times able to step aside, one can actually really see what is needed in other beings to further the ability to sow the ground to experience this contentment. And I do that with readings, and you do that with your workshops, and there's many ways. And basically, hey people, it's undescribable. Go for it.
But I'm still going to talk about it because it's fucking awesome. But there's
help it, it's like
there's nothing. No, you have to. So this is all I've been talking about, like literally with all of my friends who are on the path and other spiritual teachers. This has just been figuring this out and actually piecing life as a person back together after this has been really interesting. Because all right, so I'll take it from there. Yeah, no, we're good because I reset this. So now we have 19 minutes left. Fancy camera, only records for 30 minutes.
Sorry.
It wasn't like learning anything new. It really was like I just remembered the most obvious thing that always was, and I'm just an idiot for ever been confused that it wasn't the case. That's really what it was. It was like so fucking obvious that I was everything. That I was every single person was me, and that God was me, and that everything. It's just the most obvious thing, and you have to have been so blind and stupid to not see it right in front of your nose. Like if a bee literally just lands right on your nose, and your friend's like, "There's a bee on your nose," and you're like, "What are you talking about?" That level of like, what is the matter with you? There's a bee on your face right in front of your nose, and you're like, can't see it. So it was that obvious. And so with that came joy beyond, it was like, if you, for like a week, if you put on any Hare Krishna music or anything, I would literally just cry, just tears of joy because I'm everything. I could just stare at walls, and there was nothing to do because how could there ever be anything to do for God? It was literally like you're just God happening to have an experience in a body. Everything is perfect. There's nothing to do. There was never anything to do. There's nothing ever that you would ever need to do. Even the concept of having to do anything is fucking ridiculous because you are everything that ever is, that ever was, that ever will be. What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
There is a difference between doing and I don't know the word for that. Like, I understand completely. There's nothing to do, right? And we are here for certain reasons.
I'm getting to that. I'm just explaining. I'm just getting to just the beginning of it. What the realization. It was such content. It was just such absolute peace and bliss, and all of these thoughts. The crazy thing is, as soon as I wanted to explore some of the other beliefs I had before, I immediately knew how absurd they were, and I had all the answers to every question I could ever ask. In fact, I would go and literally think of a question, and the answer was already there because I had access to everything. And there was absolutely no separation between me and God at all, and there never was. And I literally, for that period, I was literally just going, I'd like to know, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if this will work if I channel it, typing it. I want to know this. Oh, that works too. Can I just have the voice in my head? Oh, yeah, I can do that too. So it was literally one with God in every sense, communication, being, knowing, everything. There was just God in a body, and there was nothing else. And every single person I walked in, it was me. I was just like giving, like for weeks afterwards, anyone, oh, you want $20? Sure. It was all me. There was all me. All these ideas even, just the thought of like, should I live this or should I do this with my life? All these things, they were completely ridiculous concepts. Even the concept of a person, me just being Sasha, was all a made-up construct. It was laughably funny that I thought I was a person. I was walking around a week. If somebody asked me a question for at least a week and a half, if anyone asked me a question, I wasn't trying to be funny. I would just look at them and say, "Who are you asking? Are you asking Sasha, who's just a made-up construct that I was just using in this experience, or are you asking consciousness?"
I just laughed.
It was hilarious that anybody thought they were a person. I was just walking around to everybody like, you really think you're a person? Really? Do you know how insane that is? Do you know how crazy it is that you think you're a person? It was just a while. And what else? And so it was so insane. I couldn't eat. For 6 days, I couldn't eat. Any food I tried to take, my body would reject it. As soon as it happened, I had this massive amount of energy here, and in my spine, and it was like a ball around me, and it was almost like if there was any more, I would have fried out. I couldn't have taken any more. I was like this, totally in a state of joy and bliss, oneness with everything. And I couldn't eat. If I ate, my body would reject it, and I would just shit it out. So I had to stop eating. I couldn't sleep. There was so much inspiration in every moment. Every minute, I would just be typing on my laptop, ideas for videos, how to wake people, everything. It was nonstop for days. I could barely sleep. I literally had to look up and say, stop for one night, please, so I can sleep. And then I was like, no, don't stop. It's too awesome. It was just fucking the craziest week, and everything that I did, and I would still work and do things, everything I had to do, but there was no effort, there was no doing. I just knew what had to happen next, and it just was happening. Even when I was working for 4 hours typing an article, I was totally, it's not like even there was an I in the flow. I was flow. It is flow. It is just, everything just happened, and I was like, blah, 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 everything. People around me were waking up. There was a guy who'd followed my friend Lloyd. Now we're friends, but at the time we just met. He'd been following me for years, and I needed someone just to help me film with the camera and stuff like that. And so he hung out with me for a week. He was having the experience of realizing he wasn't the self, that he wasn't a person. He was literally sitting there, and he came in once, and I was just sitting there, blissed out. Like I really wasn't talking much. I didn't have to. I was just sitting there, and he sits down over there, and I just look at him. I'm just sitting smiling, and he looks at me. And then I look away, and after a few minutes, he just says it. He just goes, "I was never real." I look at him. He's like, "It's all just a dream." I'm like, "Yeah." He just started getting it. But he was already working on it, you know?
Couple of things. What you're describing with your friend, Osho described it as a transmission of the lamp. And you can see that when you take a candle, a lit candle, and you put an unlit candle 10 centimeters away, and you bring it closer, and you bring it closer. At one point, without touching, the flame jumps. And that's when you know also when you meet somebody who is not just a teacher, you know, who learns something and then repeats it, but somebody who has actually experienced, there is a different taste, that transmission. Yeah. And it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's just fantastic. And it's just, And the other thing about energetics and, don't need to eat and all these things, the enlightened masters, Osho, often mentioned that if we do not meditate, if we do not prepare our nervous system for this onslaught of high-frequency energies, normally people who become aware die. Because there's no more point in being in the body. I did my job, I realized, finished story. Plus, and that's also the case of many enlightened masters, when you realize yourself, the connection with the body is somewhat cut. And so the body slowly goes down the drain. And so we want to prepare ourselves a little bit. So meditating is a good idea, and becoming a little bit more aware, becoming the watcher, becoming not identified, all that good stuff. And then enjoy life. Yeah. And we need the 100 monkey effect. So basically, really inviting everybody to, hey, really look, are you happy? Are you really happy and content? And if not, well then at least one thing you do know is that what I've been doing so far didn't work out. So I might as well try something new. And basically, hey, meet this guy. He helps you.
So I was just reading, again, Power versus Force, and he says after you have these experiences, it's almost like, fall from grace, going back into being a person. It's almost like, and so I'm sort of making peace with it. You have this experience, but it's about bringing in that knowledge and bringing it into your life, incorporating. Yeah. So ever since then, so the knowledge, like I can, and it's much easier for me to meditate now. Like the Infinite One is always here. Whenever I go into the person, I'm aware that I'm going into the person. So the peace is still here. The word, I understand the word liberation because it was a liberation from all the worries, all the fears of the person. Those are still gone. Yeah. Those are still gone. I'm choosing to be a person because I have to be a person and go and do things. And it's nice. I like being a person. It's great. But always I know I am also the Infinite One. The Infinite One is always here.
Zorba the Buddha.
Always back and forth. And so there's never really any drama because it's not. I know none of it is real. It's not fucking real. It's just not real. So it's just like, okay, it's part of the illusion. So the ultimate. So even though I'm not always in this blissed out state, it's definitely easier to get there. I can put on the music, some incense. I can sit. I can meditate, whatever. But the knowledge, like I can never forget that I am all that is and that all beings are one. It's never going to happen. That's it. I know. Once you know, I know. It's over.
It's over. So
that part is over. Yeah. But and yet, here I am.
And that's good because we are not necessarily physically ready and then staying in the body as well. And bringing these gifts to the world is almost more important in these times, in my book, than just being the egocentric me and I'm going to be done. And for that, I actually love this planet and life too much to not say, hey, me, a German, growing up in a time where the word chakras was like, what are you talking about? Meditation? What's that? How do you spell that? Really, I forgot what I wanted to say. Just be. And
you were saying, don't be a selfish asshole and wake up and either leave the planet or just be all to yourself. Share the love.
Exactly. I completely lost it here for a second. Like, huh?
There's a part of me. No, I had this thought before when I was on the land and just for many weeks just totally blissed out. It's like, yeah, I could do that. And yes, it's true. As you raise your vibration, you are supporting people energetically. Yes. But I'm not here I'm here to go out there and do it and do things and help people and work. I mean, that's the excitement of being a person. If I wanted to just be consciousness and bliss, I would have stayed in God form. But here I am. And
what I wanted to say also, now I remember again, the 100 monkey effect. And I don't know if you guys know about that, but just briefly, they made an experiment in Japan on a small island. there was a population of monkeys, and they taught them something the monkeys never knew before. And so that's good. And then the monkeys who got taught the other monkeys. And suddenly all the monkeys on the island, even though some of them weren't taught specifically, knew that trick. And suddenly every monkey on the mainland in Japan knew that trick. So we all have a responsibility somewhat to wake ourselves up so that the change can happen in this time. The 100 monkeys. We need 100 or 100,000 or 50,000 or whatever amount of like high vibrations, being in your center and in love, but not the normal way. Then we can make a difference. And I guess only then.
Well, there's a lot of ways to make a difference, but yeah, it's all about. I think this is a very special 3D hologram we're in. It's a really fun one, and we're here because it's fun, and we all have our role, whether it's just waking up or learning a certain lesson. I'm here to help, to help everybody else. I've always known that about myself. But yes, on this podcast where I interview people who are seeking enlightenment, so I guess I'll just say some of the things that I'm incorporating, and then I'm going to hand over to you because I want you to go on your story. Okay. So basically, yeah, the wisdom and the ultimate knowledge, it's just there with me now. I don't really worry about anything anymore. I realize that all planning is kind of stupid. It's just like really, like it's really stupid. Like I'm making T-shirts up now that just say it's not up to me. Because that's it, dude. You're not in control. You're really not. It's one of the deepest realizations during that week where I realized I was like, "There's no. Do you really think that if something is divinely ordained for you to happen, that you can make it not happen? Really, you fucking person paying your $400 a week rent or whatever. You think you can stop God's fucking plan for you, which by the way you co-created because you're also God. You think you can stop your own plan that you made before when you were the oneness? Really?
If you manage.
Yeah. Good luck. What are the I'll bet. I want to bet on that. What are the odds? Can we get a bet? I want to bet some Bitcoin. You know what I'm saying? You have no chance. You have absolutely no chance. The only thing you can do though.
You can postpone it. You can postpone it for a few lifetimes.
Yes, you can continue to suffer more and more and more and learn the lessons maybe later. Absolutely. Yeah. Or just go full on and just fucking bring it on, all of it, and just get it all done. Figure out what you came to figure out, and then get to the state of remembering your nature, and then be happy and blissful, and then go help everyone else remember. But you got to do the work on yourself first. That's what it comes down to. You have to fucking do the work and wake up first before you go around trying to heal everybody else. I was the wounded healer. I guess I still am. Going and trying to help everyone when I was still fucked up. Now it's a lot better. Now it's a lot easier.
More dangerous for other people, though.
Sure, because they have to deal with me.
Yes.
So let me finish the thought, and then I'm going to hand this over to you, and then hit the button. So that lesson that it's not up to you is really, really deep. Totally just how it is. It's not up to you. But I think you do because it's a game and we are creators. You can decide like I want to play it this way or this way or this way. But ultimately, the lessons that you came down here to learn, or the things you're supposed to have, the main things that are supposed to have, you will. You can't escape them. There's no escaping it. So just go with the flow. And this is an interesting chat I was having with another friend, Bill. There's you've read Power versus Force when they talk about the levels of consciousness.
No.
Great book, and he basically talks about. Basically there's a scale, and below 200 is still negative feelings like, anger and fear and all the fear-based shit. Over 200 is positive, and there's levels, and above 500 is love. Jesus is like 1,000, and there's levels, and you can sort of work your way through them, as I have been. And my friend Bill remarked that he was muscle testing, seeing which levels require faith and above, to get to 500, 600 faith. But once you get to 700 above, no faith is required. And now I understand why. Because I muscle tested the level I hit during that week, and it was really high. I don't even want to talk numbers. It was a high level. And there was no faith required because God doesn't need to believe in God. God just is.
Right, and you know.
there's no need to believe anything. You just know. It's like knowing that we call this a couch or this is a microphone. I mean, I don't believe that I'm holding a microphone. I'm holding a microphone. If you believe in 3D reality, that is, there's no microphone. There's no people here either, but on some level there is. But that level but one of the other things is, so having faith in the divine plan, in the creator, and your role, that is extremely important up till you realize that you're God. Then there's no faith anymore. But it was really one of the things that is absolutely crucial, is that belief that there's something more going on here. If you really, and I feel really bad for people who don't believe in a higher power, because they're cutting themselves off completely from all the joy and the bliss and all the good stuff. And they can do that because God doesn't force you to do anything. But I do feel a little bit sad for them. Yeah. You take this and start talking.
All right, start talking. Okay. That little pause brought me back into this space of like, what? What is, I think, important or a very beneficial tool to wake up, and don't ask me what that really means. I had an experience, but like I said before, it's really hard to say what I actually experienced. But what I knew out of my life story and my journeys through growing up and realizing things, that there's two things which are really important. One is the watcher, and I get to that in a minute. And the other one is listening. And not to me though, but listening to my heart and to this inner voice. And that might be different for many people. And that's one of my pleasures, to help people recognize this voice and listen to that. Because even though we are in the divine plan and we had an idea why we came here and we want to learn something, if we are not listening, we postpone and just nothing's going to happen, right? So we need to learn, well, we don't need to, but I'm German, so, you know. It would be very beneficial to learn to listen to this voice, because that voice will tell me exactly what is right, so to speak, in this moment for me in my development. And that can be anything. The mind doesn't know where to go. The mind knows how to work in the 3D world, and that's very beneficial, so I can make money and have food and all this good stuff. But for my growth, I want to listen to this voice. And there's gazillions of ways to do that, but you do want to develop your intuition, because that leads you to God, that leads you inside. And that's a voice which is not understandable by the brain. Yeah, keep on talking. Crystals learned or taught me that, to be intuitive, and giving readings taught me to not listen to my mind. Like sometimes when I give a session, I put crystals on people, right? And then my mind goes like, dude, you really believe this shit? You're full of it, right? That's my mind. And then the client gets off the table and gives me a feedback which is like, yeah, right, it works. The mind does not understand a lot. It doesn't understand hardly anything. It does understand how to repair a car and drive a car and make some money. But energetics and all these good stuff, the mind doesn't understand it. So the intuition again is very important. Because when I do healings or energy rebalancing, I call it, or give readings, sometimes something comes out of my mouth where it's like, dude, you can't say that. And it turns out it's completely correct. And so being out of this Vinaya being is a trick. And learning to distinguish between the voice of the heart and the voice of the mind is a beautiful way of learning how to listen to yourself. And Osho helped me a lot with that. Crystals helped me a lot because they're very energetic. the acid helped me a lot because I suddenly realized that, yeah, there is more what I can see. And even though I don't actually really understand many things, I know they work. And if I then go not with my understanding and my knowledge, but with my intuition, always right. And yeah.
Any specific tips for people or things they can start practicing doing where they can start tuning in more to their heart, more into their intuition?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. What worked for me very well is the principle of the first voice. So if there's a decision to be made, or I'm confronted with a situation or whatever, the very, very, very first thing which comes is the heart. It's either a feeling or a knowledge or a thought or a picture or what. It depends on the individual. And a split second later is the mind. So the very, very first thing is great. Now the second exercise would be, I have a decision to make. Do I really want to go out with this guy? Or do I really want to do this job? So I close my eyes, I take a few deep breaths, center myself, basically just watching my breath going in and out, which really centers me and brings me into the present. And then I visualize, in my way, how it is to be in this job. Even though I might not know it, but I know it. So I just visualize that. And then how does that feel? Good, okay. Whatever that feeling is. Then I take a few deep breaths, I drop that. I do the same thing with the other thing. Like not having that boyfriend or having a different job. How does that feel? Now, the heart is the feeling. So now I know what my heart says. Oh, this is sad. Or this is wow, exciting. Or this is woo. I know what to do. That is the voice of my heart. Third trick. It is impossible, out of my experience, to fight my mind. That thing is way better than me. It's fantastic. So fighting my mind ain't working. But listening to my heart is the first step. And then my mind goes, yeah, but you can't go to Mexico right now. You don't have the money, and even though it feels right, and blah, blah, blah. Then instead of fighting, I go, yeah, I know there's some challenges, but you know what? You're clever. Let's figure it out. How can we do that? I don't even question my decision, which is from the heart, but I employ my mind to help me doing that. And then my mind goes, oh, okay, let's figure that out. It works like a charm. That would be good for the beginning, I would say. Comes to mind.
That's very good. Very good. I like it. Yeah, the power of the visualization is unbelievable because, again, if you read Power versus Force and you realize that we can all muscle test whether something is true because it's all one field of consciousness, right? So, and again, it depends how deep down the rabbit hole you want to go, but we're all actually one soul. This is all just one soul experiencing itself as individuated souls and experiences. So therefore, and there is no future and there's no past, and it's all actually really one. And it's just a construct. Time is just a construct. So therefore, when you visualize that job, you're actually just feeling into a timeline, which does exist, and you can actually go, yeah, that feels really, really good, or yeah, no, not really. This other one feels much better. That's not even your imagination. You're just feeling into a potential timeline which already exists because they all exist. They all exist, and you're picking the one you want to go to based on your experience. That's actually what's going on.
Right. Yes. Simply said.
Yeah. I don't know if it's simple, but that's actually what's going on.
One of my most favorite remembrances of Osho, is actually two, but this one in this context is like, easy is right and right is easy. And actually, when we think that growing up and waking up and doing all this stuff is complicated and takes lifetimes and all of that, that's actually not true. It's actually really like Do I want to wake up? Or am I happy in my misery? Do I want to do something about it? Or, because, I can feel myself sometimes being happy in my misery. Sometimes I like to cry and be miserable and jealous and stuff. But I do know it's just a decision I make. It's actually not a reality. So I can also make the decision to change my life and be. Period. And be. And the power of intuition. Me and my partner, we are initiated as 4th level Pacos, which is we're very hard to describe. It's an Andean tradition. And the Andean indigenous people really work with power of manifestation. They call it pushing the kausai. And they're amazing people, and they can do magic, so to speak. And so can we. It's just a matter of being very clear, putting 100% of my energy into it, and envisioning it, because like, what's his face, Greg Braden, gave us this example of the timelines are all the same. It's not past, present, and future, it's all one thing. And he proved it by showing us a video where trained people feel and visualize a healing has already happened. And within 1 minute and 45 seconds, a tumor was gone. Go figure. So, feeling in what is this situation going to be is not an imagination, it's actually reality. And so these 3 exercises we talked about before is very good entrance to start listening to the heart. And even though you don't know me, but out of my experience, even though sometimes it was really crazy, my heart was never wrong. Looking backwards. Sometimes I go like, what? But hey, wow. So, what can I say? It's a dance, it's life journey. And the other little trick of being a bit of a lecturer here today is being the watcher. And Osho gave us an amazing, beautiful tool or visualization to really understand that principle. All enlightened beings talk about that. And the principle basically is the reason why I really know that I'm not this crystal, for example, is because I can observe it. And in order to observe it, to see it, I have to be separate from it. So obviously I cannot be the crystal. If I would be the crystal, I couldn't observe it from the outside. Makes sense, right? Now, very fast, you look at your body, you can see your body. Well, obviously you're going to be separate and able to see it. I can see, so to speak, my mind. I can see that movie, I see the pictures, I see the thoughts. I can observe the thoughts. I can observe my emotions. Obviously, it's not me. So doing that practice and like going like back and back, and then I can hear my mind talking and I hear the answer, and then I think that I'm the answer. No, actually I'm also observing the answer. So it's really like getting a distance. That's how opium works. The pain doesn't go away, but the pain is over there. Yeah? And this distance gives you a relaxation that, well, that's not me. And that also brings us more into the beingness, which is basically the heart space. I am, but not Vinaya, but just that. Thanks for letting me lecture.
That's the title of a famous book by, what's his name? I Am That. Was it Ram Das? Ram Das? I think so. I think so. So that's some good. I like it when we get some useful tips, not just crazy stories, but you can go and do this thing.
But yes,
it's good to have tips.
You can do that. You know, and Osho often says, you know, like, look at me, I'm just a simple Indian farmer. If I can get there, well, you definitely can. You know, and it's like, yeah.
I'm just a comedian, for God's sakes. That's all jokes. What am I doing here? What am I doing? So that was a fun detour. So let's get back to your story, because I want to know your story. So you met Osho. You decided this guy's not full of shit.
Right.
You decided he was the real deal. So what were those early? Because you lived with him for quite some time. So give us a little bit about, you know, what was like maybe the first moment of like holy shit clarity, or first teaching that really affected your life. Maybe one of your moments of you know, oneness or whatever. Give us some juicy stuff what happened during that period. I mean, how many people are lucky enough to have lived with freaking Osho, you know?
Well, it could be like gazillions of stories, really. But the first one, when you asked me that question, came to mind is, so I took sannyas, and I actually took it in Germany and didn't get it from Osho. And Osho was at the ranch at this point. I was in Pune 1 already, but then I had that big ego, if you remember, and I never got to really meet him. I actually never really went into a discourse. It was ridiculous. I'm stubborn. But so then finally I decided to become a sannyasin and do the step. And the next step was basically go to see him. So I went to Oregon at the ranch. And there was a drive-by. So he drove by in a Rolls Royce, and we were lining up on the roads and all namaste him. And that was pretty much the first time I actually really was close to him. You know, actually really the first time I experienced his energy. And being a stubborn German, Aries, you know, nothing. So the drive-by happened, and we go to Walt Whitman and have a tea or hang out. And suddenly, out of the blue, it just hit me. It was like a time lapse. I started crying, I started melting. There was no reason whatsoever. It was just like a hammer on the rock. It was just an energetic thing. I was just blown away. And that was basically it. You know, before it was like more like, oh yeah, now I'm going inside and I like sannyasins, they're cool people and all of that. And then when I actually really experienced him, it was like, boom, undescribable. And that happened often in discourses and stuff where you just sit there and suddenly you just cry for no reason at all. And juicy, it was just juicy, like 24/7. He was an enlightened master. At one point he gave a discourse and he goes like, because there was some really strange stories happening in the ashram and people were freaking out and stuff, and he goes like, do you really think that I don't know what's going on here and that I have a hand in it? Just relax, you know? It was a constant hammer on the rock, but like a mixture out of like things got taken away which I took for granted, which I thought that's me, and suddenly bliss attacks and you cry and you laugh and you had people around you who were at the same page basically. You might not like them. Sannyasins comes in all shapes and sizes, but we all had this, I want to know me. Yeah, and one of the methods was like to find out what you're not. So it was really juicy. I mean, and you know, funny, he was called the sex guru. Reason be, in hindsight, it was really clear that in the first years, encounter groups, sex, was the first 2 chakras. Clearing that out. Then in the ranch, at the ranch, it was power trip. Clearing that out. And then Pune 2 was the next levels of like being in the heart, being creative, and actually starting to meditate. And then he got killed, so we didn't really go into the Advaita phase of like really being the watcher and stuff. But it was 24/7 experiences in dropping my stories. And it was juicy. There was sex all over the place. He goes like, for sex, for example, when we walked through our first chakra, was basically experience, explore. So you really know. And then suddenly your mind goes like, oh, I would like to, how would that be? And 10 minutes later, there was a woman coming and she goes like, hey, how would that be? And you're like, well, let's try it out, you know. Or you had a problem with your anger. You got constantly pushed and had to work with your anger. Or you had to stay in your center. Like, it was life to the max. It was a constant group, 24/7. And it was party. And it was, it's indescribable, actually. And it was just juicy 24/7. It was the best. I mean, my life was, I call it double F. Can I say that? Fucking fantastic. And I was blessed with amazing experiences and all of that. Osho, indescribable. And like after he left his body, which I was really pissed at him actually, because I was like living in Pune and I was giving groups, I was taking groups, I was working with crystals already. It was just juicy. I knew I'm gonna stay till the end. But in India, because pollution and food is not so cool and all of that, you needed to leave every now and then to rejuvenate your body. So I left, went to Australia, and went to Osho commune, and it was actually really funny. We went out into the boondocks and collected magic mushrooms and ate some magic mushrooms. And then had a nice time outside and went back to the commune, and there was a musician who was mind-fucking for days. If he should go to Pune or not, and is his master, and blah, 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 and all of that. And we come in the house, and he was happy like a kite, and he goes like, now I know what I do, I'm staying. And some other people were crying, and I go like, what the heck is going on here? Osho left his body. So it was like, he was like, yeah, now I know what I'm doing. And other people were like, oh. And I was pissed. I was staying as long as I possibly always could, you know, and I really sort of like felt a little bit something was taken away from me, because he often said it's like an amazing experience when the master leaves the body and you can be present. So I was a little bit pissed at him, you know, not wait for me and all of that good stuff. But it's an indescribable life with an enlightened master, and especially with Osho, because he was not the normal spiritual masters where you are really spiritual, right? Advaita, where nothing else matters. He was more like, hey guys, Zorba the Buddha. Enjoy life, party, celebrate, and meditate, and find out who you are. Be both. And it really works for me. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, just hearing you talk about it, first of all, I'm like, I really feel like I missed out. Man, that sounds like a really good time. But I really resonate with, I have a lot of questions, by the way, so I'm going to say something, then I'm going to hand you the mic and push start, stop over there, and we'll have it fresh. But it really resonates because it just doesn't make sense that anyone would come down here to not be a person. It doesn't make sense. Why would food taste so good? Why is sex so much fun? Why is like laughing and joking around so much fun if we're not supposed to do any of that stuff? We're supposed to do all that stuff. That's why we came down to be a person. There's no fucking way we're not supposed to do all that stuff. And yet to appreciate all that stuff, do the spiritual, realize that you're not just the person, because there's so much suffering when you're a person. You're going to get old, you're going to die, all these kind of things. But when you realize it's actually all an illusion, you can be a person fully and not fucking worry about it. And it really is amazing. You have to have both. Yeah. Really. That's where I'm at now anyway. Who knows? Maybe in a year I'll be like, I don't know. But right now it's like, do the spiritual stuff and have a great time being a person.
I never understood. I'm weird. Well, we know that. But I never understood. Everybody basically and their grandmother goes like, I want to get off the wheel. This is just misery. I think it's bloody great. It's an amazing life. It's like nature. Experiences. I don't get the idea why I want to get off the wheel. And it took Osho and quite a few years to really be the watcher. And like, there is misery if I choose to. But if I have gout, attacks sometimes, right? So then my knee hurts that I'm screaming. Now, okay, I have pain, I don't like it, and there's nothing much I can do except like wait until it's gone. What's the point of put misery on top of it? So I'd rather accept I have pain, and it's part of the story of this 3D world. And again, that gives me a distance, and even though I still don't like it, and I'm still screaming because it's intense, it's part of the story. And it's an experience, and it's amazing. And I do have remembrances of being not in a body, being just energetic. Now, I don't know if that's my mind just telling me a story or I read too much science fiction, but I really do remember that when I was a kid, that I always remembered that. There is no experience, period. One is just. There is no hot, there is no cold, there is no this, there is no that. So yes, in a certain way, being here, it's an incredible gift. It's amazing. And on top of this amazingness is this other amazingness which one can experience of like really realizing that one is not separate, that this is just one story, and it's just an experience. And that gives me the ability to just enjoy it, even though I'm screaming of pain. And I'm not really enjoying it, and I'm celebrating it as well, because it's this experience. And yeah, so it's both, Zorba the Buddha, yeah, and being only, for me, like the first 40 years of my life, I was, and I forget the word, you know, where you only go for your own gratification.
Self-serving, service to self.
Yeah, service to self, egocentric, only, you know, I want to make an experience and it's only me, not harming other people necessarily, which sometimes does happen, but not intentionally, but just being for myself. And then, which is also a very good trick to get into the spiritual life, is like really experiencing every nook and corner of the 3D life, and then realizing that, yeah, that was great, but now what? And then the Buddha comes in. But without that experience of everything, so to speak, there will always be this nagging story in my mind, like, yeah, but if I would have done this, maybe that would have been the story. It's the same with Buddha. He tried for 7 years, everything he possibly could, and then he finally gave up, and boom, it happened. So yeah, enjoy life and be a watcher. When I was talking about the watcher in the beginning, Osho, it's one of his major messages, be a watcher, right? No, don't be identified. So it's a very beautiful exercise when you have pain. It's amazing, right? Or when you're misery or sad or what. It's a really beautiful exercise. One has a distance. It's there, but it doesn't really faze me. Okay, so after a few years practicing this, he goes, okay, now you watch the bliss. You watch the beautiful stuff. And I go like, what? No way. That's what I want. Why do I want to have a distance, right? That doesn't quite pan out. You know, what are you talking about? But I did try it, and it was amazing. It was like what we call positive, the bliss, the beautiful feelings were like amplified like gazillion times. And I'm not quite sure why that is so, but it was just amazing. I was not identified even with my bliss or with my. It was a sexual night, and so, you know, instead of like getting lost in my orgasm, I was really stepping out and watching myself having sex, having an orgasm, feeling all these feelings. Boy, it was amazing. So like. That's the Buddha part. You know, one does not put anything away, doesn't cut anything out. One experiences everything. And one is a watcher and is actually not really perturbed. And try it out. For some reason, if you practice a little bit to be the watcher, you know, like watch yourself eating. You know, like pretend you're looking from up there and visualize yourself sitting there and eating. Yeah. And then watch yourself having sex. It's amazing. Just for the fun of it.
I'm going to try that bliss thing, man. I never tried that before. It's very interesting.
It's really interesting.
I'm definitely food for thought there. See, I'm learning things too. It's great. What a great podcast. Everybody's learning. So one question pops up. Yeah, I went and I did a tantric sex course with some group, and they weren't really in their integrity, so I didn't continue training with them. But it was also a school for enlightenment, and the first couple levels were sex. So it seems to be a theme that you want to deal with that stuff first.
Yes.
And that's interesting. It's almost like you just have to get control of this stuff that controls you usually, which is sex and food and the lower chakra stuff. It's almost like you got to get that out of the way before you can go to the higher. I don't know it's weird, but it's interesting. It's interesting. During that week when I really had the big awakening, I usually do, 24, 36 hours dry fasting a week, but then I had done 48 hours and then 5-6 layers. I was just in the middle of another 48 hours as it happened. And over, so I'd been dealing with my food addiction, doing the breatharian initiation for, almost a year now. Sex also, I stopped. I haven't been public about it, last couple of years. No women, no sex, nothing. So broke addiction to food, broke addiction to sex. So it's interesting that that's also been part of what's been happening with me. So very interesting.
Well, what I like when I said about Osho, like looking back, he went in the Puna one, the first two chakras, encounter groups, power, survival, and all that good stuff. Coming into this reality, we bring baggage and we bring lessons, and it differs for all of us. And it is very beneficial to clean out these centers so that the energy actually can flow. A shortcut is a watcher. And that sometimes doesn't work because we are too involved. We are not able to step aside. Our story is too strong. My story is too strong. An example would be when I was with Mooji, I checked out Mooji, and he's a wonderful being, by the way. I really enjoyed his presence, and it's amazing to be in his field, in his presence. There was this woman asking something, and she had a challenge about not feeling loved, or she's not worth to be loved, right? And so Mooji goes, well, I love you. And it was obviously that, as an enlightened being, you do love pretty much everybody. You can't help it. And you can feel that. And then he goes, can you take that? And she goes, no. And it's like she's so covered with her walls that there is no way to see that. So there is a value in cleaning out and learning about oneself, becoming aware of my stories, what was put into me when I grew up, what is my program and all of this stuff. And that's it. The awareness makes me able to decide, do I want to play this game or not? Sometimes physical healing needs to be done because trauma-based, most of us have traumas, severe traumas, and most of them unconscious, we don't even remember that, and that runs our lives. And besides becoming aware of these traumas, you also want to get rid of the energetic imprints in the body. So if one wants to heal, so to speak, and wake up, one needs to go holistic. Mind, body, spirit sort of thing. It's not just a saying, it's actually really important, because if I don't get rid of the energy in my body, the cancer will come back. It's just no other way, right? Or my neurosis will come back, or my unhappiness will come back. And actually, people, one faces one's story, and we need to go through something, and it seems like an unsurmountable mountain and really scary and like painful and all of that. Once one goes through it and the energy is gone, wow. It's such a, like my partner, she did a poem, and part of this poem was like, and it's all these false, juggling these false beliefs, which is so taxing. Energy gets so much freed out, and we feel so much more relaxed, and wow. So even if it seems to be like, try it out. And the more often you go and come out on the other hand, you know, and it doesn't necessarily get easier, to tell you the truth, right? It's always a little bit more intense, and it's a little bit more deeper, and oh, not again. And it's a process, and the more we become the watcher, the more easier it is actually to go through this shit and let go of it and become aware of it. And in the end, it's just a game. And why are we doing this? Actually, and really, in the end, I know it in my head, you know, that that wants to experience itself, and so we reincarnate and do this. But does it really answer it? And do I really know what this is all about? I have no clue. The only thing I know is that I'm alive. I'm in this experience. So why would I not enjoy it? Why would I not celebrate? Why would I not? What's the point? Food for thought.
Hard to argue against. Because life is hard and you have to be German and pay your taxes for the fossil land. I can think of some reasons. Because life is tough, and I mean, I had some YouTube comments recently, actually, and it's really sad that people, and I realize I think a lot of people have this belief. Literally, people are writing things like, you know, there's no point to it. Life is just suffering and random, and it's just a shit show, and you just have to do the best you can and survive, and then it's all over. And yeah, that's totally true if you choose to accept that as your reality.
And to tell you how impossible it is to change your life. In Thailand, I mean, I traveled all around the world, and I met amazing people and had amazing experiences. That would be a 5-day podcast. This woman, she had a store, and she made puppets and tapestry and artwork. And we got to know her a little bit, and she told us a story. She was in an abusive relationship with her husband. That's Thailand, right? As a woman, your rights are zero. Your possibilities to do anything is zero. She left. She started to make one puppet, sold it, made two, sold it. She had a store. She had a house. She changed her life completely. It's just, we are all able to do that. And it's just our mind who tells us that, no, I can't do that. I don't know what to do if I'm out there. And I can understand that. It's a challenge, and it's scary. And it's like, I might go hungry. For me, being hungry maybe is a good exchange for being miserable or not being miserable. Yeah, because I can also sit being hungry and just, okay, my body needs a cleanse. I'm hungry, but hey, let's see what happens and enjoy. What's the point? And being relaxed then actually makes me able to see what is possible to fill my stomach. Yeah, suddenly I might notice there's an apple tree. I can get an apple or whatever. But if I'm tense and like, I don't see nothing. So basically, there is a false belief, even though we are destined to do certain things, it is still in my hand how I create and live my life. It's not your responsibility. It's not your fault if I'm miserable. It's not your doing that I'm happy. It's me. And if I want to grow up, I need to take that responsibility in my hand and without being serious, just sincere. Yeah, I'm the one who fucked up. It's not because of you. It's because I was unaware or whatever the reason is. And we are all able to do that. And it's just a matter of courage and having enough of my misery, you know? And mind you, I had like one experience about like liking misery. When one is really aware, like I was jealous when I was younger, right? And then like before I came to Osho, I was quite jealous. I took tables and threw it against the wall. I didn't hurt people, but I took I was really intense. And then suddenly I learned that this it's an inferior complex. I think I'm not good enough, so I'm freaking out, right? So I know this, and I know that I'm not that. So that's all good, right? Jealousy didn't go away. I suddenly was jealous again. But suddenly then this awareness made me able to see that, like, wait, is there a reason to be jealous? Oh, no, okay. But I remember one time, for some reason, I decided I want to be miserable. And for 3 days, I was basically crying. I was so miserable. And it felt so good. And it was so alive. And then it was enough, and I decided to drop it and then finish story. And hey, life is great. Even in the miserable part. And if I decide to be miserable, great. But it's my decision. And we are all able to take that in our hands, even though it seems impossible. But that's just my mind.
Much truth is being spoken here, my friend. I was hoping this would happen when I got you on here. No, really. It's just one of those things at some point, you know, we're responsible for our emotional state. And then much, much deeper, we're responsible for, I mean, we are, there's quotes about this in the Bible, which I don't remember, but we are living God. We're literally, we don't have, as people, we don't have all the seeming power, but actually on a level most people will just can't even conceive we do have the power. We are co-creating this experience totally, and all the timelines that exist are there, and I've shifted timelines consciously with other people where we both shifted and we knew it. I mean, really trippy stuff I've talked about before. So I mean, really, we are creating this experience, all of it. And when you start taking responsibility, and it doesn't have to be on that level, because that, for, you know, depending, everyone's on a different part of their journey. So on that level, like, you're responsible for all that, that might be a little bit much, but just starting with your emotional state, the way you look at things, whether you look at it as a tragedy or a message from the universe where you can wake up and take responsibility and change something in your life in order to start creating the way you want to. At that level, everyone can take responsibility. You don't have to have an enlightenment experience for that, just to say, I'm in control of my own life, right. You know?
And a warning, just to say something about not to spiritual bypass things which are happening in the 3D world. Like when somebody gets raped, it happened here, right? And then somebody else said, well, she probably created that. She needed that lesson. That's bullshit. That's not what we are talking about. What we are talking about, well, at least what I'm talking about, but I think you're the same in that sense, is how we relate to things happening in our lives. So I can have the choice to respond in many different ways to a situation. Yes? And I can be identified with the story. Or I can be a watcher of the story. That's what we are talking about. I'm not saying that it's cool to rape people or to kill people or, you know, all this. I can say, yeah, well, that's a life experience you needed to have. That might be true, but I don't know that. It's really more like how we relate to ourselves and to the experiences we have. Does that make sense? I think that's very important because in these days we tend to excuse many things with spirituality, and it has nothing to do with that. And like one time I was in Australia and I went to a rock stop, and this woman showed me laser crystals. And she goes, but I'm really careful who I sell these to because you can kill people with that. And yes, you could actually, because that crystal with the right intention and right way puts out a laser beam like energetic pencil sort of thing, and you could cut vital parts of the aura out or disturb energy fields and kill somebody, yes. And if you are so aware to be able to do that, you wouldn't do that anyways. There is no question that you do. If you are aware, out of awareness, Osho one time, to be a lecturer again, I heard him say, I'm not supposed to say he said, so I heard him say, because I might remember wrong, right action is not necessarily doing something good. If you do something good out of unawareness, it is not. If you do something or anything out of awareness, it cannot be wrong, so to speak. Like Jesus going with the whip in the temple and kicks out the moneylenders, being basically coming out of the heart, and this is not the place, this is a bomb, get out of here. Right? So you can even smack somebody out of awareness and out of your heart, because you actually know in this moment, out of your heart, that that person needs a smack in the face to wake up because they're freaking out. Right? So, yeah. Does that make sense again? I forgot what I wanted to say in the end, but basically I think that's what I wanted to say. It's all so easy and so complex, and Osho many times, because our mind is so fantastic. It's really fantastic. And it's like Osho often, because he was also a psychology professor before he became enlightened, he knew the working specifically of the Western mind. And that's why he knew we can't sit still in the corner and go home and meditate. No, he devised active meditation, so we exhaust our body and mind, and then we can sit still. And what I wanted to say? Enjoy life. It's getting dark. I don't know if we have enough light, and maybe we should finish up the story. Right?
It's time to wrap it up. But I mean, I feel like we could go on, and I feel like we'll do this again sometime. This was just round one. It's fun. It's a fun time. So two things. Just give us one story, because I feel like I love asking this question. So just give us one story. It doesn't have to be the main, but like one time when it was just boom, you woke up. It was just oneness. One time when you're like, holy shit. Wow.
And by the way, this waking up for a time is called samadhi, which is translated as right remembrance. And basically we are it already, we just don't know about it. We forgot about it. And it doesn't really make any sense until you had this taste. So hang out with him a little bit. And maybe check out enlightened beings. Like in my book, when I visited Muji, his way of getting there is not my style. It's Advaita, which means basically forget the world and just go in the cave and be the watcher. Nothing more. It's not my style. I'm more the Zorba the Buddha. And when I met him, it is the same energetic Buddha field as I experienced with Osho. So with him, I'm pretty sure you can get a taste. Any other people, I don't know. I didn't experience. And yeah, enjoy your life.
No, I want one of your experiences where you
with
popped.
Muji?
No, just
where I popped. Okay, All right, quickly. I was in a group in Germany. I was just about to take sannyas, and I'm actually not really sure what happened. But at one point, everybody just lifted me up into the air. It was kind of like a rebirthing exercise or what. I don't really remember. But something just hit me. And it was basically the cosmic joke dawned on me without really being aware of what the joke, the punchline actually is. I still don't know the punchline. But I just had to crack up laughing. My body started exploding. I was just vibrating. It was just, when I opened my eyes, I had the feeling like I was shooting beams of light out of my eyes. I had really no clue what was going on. Really, I really had no clue. And so they let me down, and the group leader, Amano, anyway, he goes like, go and look in the mirror. So I went in the bathroom, looked in the mirror, and I was cracking up for about half an hour. I couldn't handle looking at me without laughing. Life, everything was hilarious to the max. It was just a joke. Everything was a joke. What I thought, what I was, it was just a joke. And it was not even really a thought, and my body was just exploding. And actually, I really wanted it to stop. It was so intense. It was just unbelievable. And I was actually really glad that it finally dissipated. And it took me quite a few weeks to get back into my body and be more like in contact with this reality. It was really similar to another story, leaving my body a few times, but it's undescribable. It's a cosmic joke. Mind you, again, I don't remember the punchline, and I didn't really quite understood the punchline either, but I knew it's just a joke. And I just laughed and laughed and laughed. And really the feeling in my body, like when you have an orgasm, like this energetic rush comes through your body, you have this for like times on end in the whole body. And it's not sexual at all. It's just energy vibrating. And that's like, then I also understood later when Osho said, like, if you don't prepare your nervous system, you just burn up. It is so intense. And it's like, even if I don't experience that again, having this beauty in life and my love of life, just that one taste was, my life is fulfilled. It was just amazing. And I hope and I invite every one of you to go there and just experience. And we can talk for days. Let's leave it at that. Enjoy your life, people.
Last point, if people like you a lot, tell them a little bit about, how you work with people, and if people want to reach out to you. I'll put all the links. By the way, if anyone doesn't know, because originally we're on www.woke.as. Just recently we've moved to YouTube also. We're filming so you can see our beautiful faces. So if you're not listening to this on YouTube, if you're not on YouTube, you can be on YouTube. And I'll always put relevant links in the YouTube comments. And make sure to like the video if you're on YouTube. And so tell the little people, what you're doing in life.
What I'm doing in life, well, I'm enjoying it. I have a little farm here in Ecuador, but basically my gift is to, I call myself a karmic awareness catalyst. I make people aware of what is their gifts, what are their challenges, what's beneficial to do or not to do. Basically channel their higher self to have it a little bit more easy. Often it's just a confirmation of what people already know, but that's really helpful when somebody who doesn't know you tells you the same thing, and so you're, okay, I'm not imagining things. I do that over the internet because, as we said before, there is no time and space, so I can connect with anybody wherever they are. And I do energy rebalancing with crystals, Reiki, visualization, and all that good stuff. It really depends on the person. And it's always different in any session, but it's basically really also removing blockages, becoming aware of blockages in the energetic flow of the body, and getting rid of that also over Skype. It's magic. It's like amazing. I met a guy, Ray Stubbs. He's a sexual shaman, amazing being. And my question was, because am I imagining things that I can connect with people over distance, right? And so that was my question for him. So we were on the phone and he said, look, take a deep breath and visualize you connect with me. And then I saw that connection, even though I don't know him, just visualize that. And the moment I connected with him, he on the telephone said, oh, here you are. My question was answered. So I work with people in that way, and I'm also helping people, like in a sort of way, coaching, spiritual coaching, to make specific programs for people. Like first you get a reading, then we see where you want to go, and do exercises, meditations, whatever is needed to just be of service to bring a little bit more you into your life. That's what I'm doing. And yeah, you can check me out on my website. And me and my partner, we do Andean ceremonies, which is not ingesting medicines, it's despachos. That's also explained on my website, which is beautiful. Teaching people how to connect with the earth and basically back to nature sort of thing. Learning how to listen to your intuition and all of that good stuff. A karmic awareness catalyst, helping you to be more you.
Tell them the website.
PsychicCrystalReadings.com. PsychicCrystalReadings.com. We have a link on there. Yeah. Okay, so you don't need to remember that. And if you like crystals, I have a Facebook group called Crystal Porn. Because we all like to look at crystal pictures.
18 plus only. in that group.
And there I talk about, I'm also a crystal teacher, so if you want to learn about crystals, I do that too. I have a YouTube channel and all that good stuff. So yeah, check me out. Namaste.
I told you guys it would be fun, but you didn't believe me, did you? You said, no, it was a great time. So yeah, great. Our first time, see? You see? Yeah. It went by like this. This was one of the longest ones ever. This is going to be like 2 or 3 parts. It was really long. We used up all the light. Literally, the camera's working its ass off now in low light conditions. But no, it's been wonderful, and I hope to see you again on the show. Peace. Goodbye, everybody. If you're on iTunes, make sure to like it and share it and like it. Do something so someone else might actually see this. That would be nice. Thanks, guys. Somebody. All right. Ciao, guys. Ciao.